Let's take a look at the first entry type, the lower time frame refined limit order, aka the refinement that we make on the lowest time frame. Now, when we're looking at GU, what we're gonna do is just a quick analysis, right? Because in order for us to get our entry, we need to know where we kind of are in the trend. So what we can clearly see when we're thinking about this from a liquidity perspective is that we have some form of low taken to the left. And this acts as an inducement for us to go higher. Now, again, after we take out some form of low, we must come to take out some form of lower high. So this lower high is the highest lower high within this range that makes a lower low. So this is where price comes back to. Now, where does it mitigate? Price just comes back to mitigate some form of extreme order block all the way within this range. Now, we did have some form of 1 minute order block. Price, this actually did mitigate this order block over here. Now, price did just go a little bit past it, but I can promise you in the moment, since we did take these settles with the mastermind community, this zone was respected, right? It looks like it barely tapped it. It was still respected. So now let's see, right? We're seeing sell side liquidity being taken out. Now we're seeing buy side liquidity taken out. So this is telling us that based off of this image right here, we can tell we're generally trending lower, and we take out gas above lower highs in order to target lower lows. Now this is going to become our target, and now what we're trying to do is we're trying to backtrace where price was and to where it is now. So what we can clearly see is we have some type of order flow transpiring. So we see some form of right high that was mitigated this decisional over here, took out some form of high into it, made that extreme refinement, and then price started doing what? It started going lower, right? We had this order flow start happening over here, extreme, this extreme, right? This high, low, lower high, lower low. Now we have what? We have this new extreme over here. At the same token, we can assume that this is some form again, low, lower high, lower low. This is some form of internal high rated, and we can just kind of use our intuition and understand there's going to be some type of order block left within here on that lower time frame. So as we can see, it was right here, and because we're focusing on where price currently is, we're just going to assume that this whole range is right already mitigated. So sweeps being consecutively taken out to mitigate some form of order flow. We have this inducement price comes up into, and then price rapidly runs away. But now what do we see? We see price still continuing, right? There's no imbalance, but this is where the last imbalance was. So this becomes the order block of interest to us because we can understand that possibly on some form of other time frame, price still is mitigating order flow. All these imbalances are accounted for, and all price needs to do is mitigate that highest time frame imbalance, which it does to the T. So now we're looking at price. This is the last area of established order flow. When we're looking at this, we're imagining, all right, because we're in a sell trend, we're following order flow, we're imagining that this is going to be the last area where price is going to react from and then just absolutely right target new lows because there's no more imbalance to the left. With that being said, now let's figure out how to get our entry. So this is the higher time frame order block based on the 1 hour. But if we notice, this is a 17 pip stop loss. We don't want a 17 pip stop loss. So how can we refine our order? Well, just to illustrate this real quick, this higher time frame order block, right, engulfing candle, imbalance right after, came to fill it. It was already mitigated. So let's focus in here. We see that we have some form of inducement beforehand. And now price is just building more consecutive inducements on lower time frames, just new higher highs that are waiting to get swept into the order block. But let's see how we can refine this. Let's go to the 30 minute. Now within the 30 minute, we can see that we have something right here. We have this order block, but again, we want to see what makes the most sense on all of the time frames. So if we go to the 15 minute now, do we see that we still have this order block over here? Yes. So let's go ahead and refine it. We can simply just take our tool and let's just focus on that last internal order block that has imbalance inside that causes price to go lower. Now, within side of order blocks, you're always going to have extreme and decisional refinements. Now, the biggest question is, well, shoot, which one do I always make? In the past, we've always taught students to always make that extreme refinement because it's best practice for precision. However, when we start to go through the course after the boot camp and we start to really teach you more about the reason and the logic, there's certain areas and certain times extremes, lower time frame refinements will work, and other times only the higher time frame will. But if we can see here, one of those key reasons that the extreme refinement is going to work is because if the lower time frame extreme is following some form of order flow, I mean, here we have the higher time frame, but also internally, we can see that we have lower order flow that is transpiring. We see that we had some form of order block here. It was immediately mitigated and price ran away. This took out some form of Wakai to the left, and this was left as an order block, and price came to mitigate it and it dropped. So this is the last lower time frame area of established order flow that we can go ahead and reference for a refined limit order. Now let's see what the stop loss is now. It's still about 6 pips. That's great, but we don't strive just to have 6 pip stop losses. We preach 3-4 pip stop losses out of maximum. So this is still a phenomenal entry, and of course our target is going to be this higher time frame lower low as we're taking out gas to the buy side to target new lows. So this is still phenomenal RR. But let's see if we can even refine this more. Let's go ahead and go down to the 10 minute. 10 minute is the same thing. Great. What's also giving us confidence is because we're following this order flow, this can now act as an area of engineered liquidity where price randomly mitigated and then it dropped. So we can actually use this for further confirmation that we are right in our analysis. So we could just reference this with just a little dotted line to represent engineered liquidity. Now, if we go down to 3 minute, do we see another refinement we can make? Well, yes, we do see another refinement, and the other refinement that we can make is right here, this extreme order block of this entire higher time frame order block. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky because if you start to over refine it, you could be like, oh, this is the order block. But what do we know? All it needs to do is tap this 1 hour, but we're refining it because we hope it taps this lower time frame order block. So if we go to the 2 minute, let's see if we have anything else. All right. So now within this whole higher time frame order block, based on that 10 minute perspective, we can see that we have some form of order flow. We have some form of imbalances that are left unaccounted for, unmitigated. This order block is taken care of. No imbalance below here, no imbalance below here. Oops, we have an imbalance, right? So in this case, what we would do is we've already refined our order block within the higher time frame extreme on the lower time frame. So what we can do is we can either keep our order or a limit As so, or what we can actually do is we can refine our stop loss, because what we see is this is the order block that meets up with the 10-minute order block, and it's the last lower time frame on the 2-minute that has imbalance. This candle right here, everything else, there's no imbalance. So we can actually go ahead and just refine our order block to here, and our stop loss now becomes 2.3 pips. Phenomenal. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and drag the RR tool again, and we can do a little copy paste, and we can actually just go ahead and make this a little bit refined so we can see how the RR improves. So from now being a 14 to 1, we're now looking at an RR that is about 1 to 40, which is a phenomenal and drastic increase. And this is just trusting our overall refinements. So when we're looking at this, again, we chose this one because we had double confirmation, right? We have lining up the 10-minute, and it's that lower time frame order flow order block. Now let's see how we can react, and let's see what price does. Price comes up to the higher time frame, and it immediately snipes that 10-minute on the higher time frame, and it snipes this 2-minute refinement as well. And now let's see what price should do, right? Because now it's building up liquidity into the higher time frame, and price should just run away. All right, and as you're now seeing, price is doing exactly as we anticipated. It is now continuing to sell down, and once it smashes our target, that just helps give you all the confidence in the world knowing that it's all about liquidity. So this is a 1 to 40 trade with the higher time frame, lower time frame, refined limit order. This is the higher time frame or the lower time frame extreme refinement, but if you want to get even more precise, we chose this 2-minute refinement because it was the 10-minute open, but also it was the last lower time frame with imbalance. Now let's take a look at another example. All right, so similar just to what we just talked about over here to the right, we can clearly see that we are looking at a similar scenario. In this example, notice that we have some form of order flow taking place. We still are mitigating the higher time frame order block, but how do we choose the right refinement? Well, in this case, if we're looking, we can see that we have order block, order block, order block, and then price runs away. We have imbalance right here. So this is our higher time frame 1-hour order block. Now, as long as we keep in mind this is all price has to mitigate, let's go ahead and look at the lower time frame. Let's go to the 10-minute. Now within here, do we see any imbalance? No, we don't see any imbalance. However, there's one thing that sticks out to me, and as you become more familiar with refinement, you will notice that this is the kind of the last area that takes out some liquidity. So let's go on a 5-minute and see if we can get a little bit better of perspective. Well, there's still no more imbalance, so let's go to the 3-minute. Now within this order block on the higher time frame, where's the last imbalance that we see? Well, there's imbalance here, there's accounted for. There's imbalance here, but it was immediately accounted for. We now see that we have imbalance where? Well, nowhere. This is the last imbalance. So this is the last order block that lies within our higher time frame order block, and this becomes our refinement. Now, why are we choosing this one and not looking for an extreme up here? Well, what is our extreme lying at? If price comes all the way back up to here, and let's say there is a 1-minute order block in here. If price comes back up, notice what the extreme has. It's equal highs. So if price comes all the way back up to here, chances are it's just going to raid these highs right here. So with that being said, if we know all price needs to do is tap this higher time frame order block, and now we see a decisional refinement with the last order block that took out some form of liquidity, that has engineered liquidity beforehand with imbalance, this can actually become our refinement. So now following internal order flow within our higher time frame order block, this is how we would place a limit order. And what gives us confidence that this is the right decision? Because we have some form of order block or inducement lying right beforehand. And now what we can do is the same thing. We can go ahead and look for our shorts, expect liquidity to be rated into our order block, price to then stop at our refined limit order, and then we are just simply looking to target new lows because we're bearish order flow. Of course, with that being said, let's see what ends up happening. Price is building some early sellers to induce them into selling beforehand and buying up, right? We're having some form of build up with inducement into the order block. The build up, the inducement, price will then start to rapidly sell away. And of course, it will not return as seen in the previous example. So it will just keep selling off, going all the way down. And this ends up being a phenomenal trade yet again. And this is a 4-pip stop loss, or a 5-pip stop loss rather, and it's a 1 to 27 RR position. And this ended up taking place over a few days, and this is a signal that we called on our live trading session with our students. So a great trade showing you how to make those refinements, and by choosing refinements, that's going to ensure that you're choosing the smallest stop loss. But a keynote, again, is to always keep in mind, all price needs to do is react to the higher time frame. Oftentimes, if you aren't good with practicing the refinements or until you build that market IQ and intuition, you're going to have to be waiting for some of the other entry models to utilize to give you that confirmation. So with that being said, let's go ahead and review this model and move on to the next.